Today I'm looking at Psalm 52, and this is a very interesting psalm actually, because it's talking about a man called Doeg the Edomite. And one of the problems with Doeg the Edomite is he just basically really betrayed David. He was quite a nasty man, really, and really sort of undermined what God was doing through King David. And this is, a very painful experience for David as well. And he says, "Why do you boast of evil, you mighty man? Why do you boast all day long? You're a disgrace in the eyes of God. Your tongue plots destruction. It's like a sharpened razor. You who practice deceit." And he really pours out this complaint to the Lord. It sounds like he's actually speaking to Doeg the Edomite, but he's speaking this out to God. This is what he's feeling. This is what he's struggling with. And I find it very interesting, actually, that when we're struggling about a relationship with a person, when we're frustrated by somebody, we might not be able to address the issues to them directly as a person. We might not be in that position, and we might feel that we've got no voice to offload stuff to them directly, or to counteract what they've done or whatever. But the interesting thing is we can bring that into God's presence. And even when it's painful, this is, again, I'm reminded of this whole thing that the Psalms, to me, it seems to read very much like a private prayer journal, where the psalmist, whoever the psalmist will be, David or sons of Korah or whoever, they can bring stuff into God's presence that's painful and difficult. But it's a great confessional box for them. It's an amazing place that you can just cry on God's shoulder and pound the pillow, as it were. And then later on in that psalm, it says, verse 8, "But I am an olive tree flourishing in the house of God. I trust in God's unfailing love forever and ever. I will praise you forever for what you've done. In your name I will hope, for your name is good. I will praise you in the presence of your saints." And so it's just reminding us that once he's offloaded this difficult stuff about a particularly difficult and nasty character, he's able to, in a sense, replant himself in the security of God, in the place of flourishing in God's presence. Because when we can get rid of all the junk and the rubbish with God, we can then find ourselves, sorted in a sense from the negatives, and able to plant ourselves in the good soil of God's presence. So I think it's very interesting. And in between, there's this whole thing. So how does he deal with this very painful frustration? He says in verse 5, "Surely God will bring you down to everlasting ruin. He will snatch you up and tear you from your tent. He will uproot you from the land of the living." Sometimes we've got to just commit the case to God that, "Lord, I don't know what to do with this person. I don't know what to do with this situation. I pray for your mercy, but I pray, Lord, that the wickedness that's going on, the things that are unjust, the things that are really evil, will be uprooted. But instead, and Lord, if you need to remove this person out of the situation, then please do that. We can pray for God's mercy on them." But I feel like David, understands that point that, Lord, you're going to have to do the uprooting. Because if there's something to get uprooted here, then please do that. But remember that, Lord, I want to be in the flourishing place, and I want to be rooted firm and secure in the good soil of your presence. And I think that's amazing kind of understanding too, because sometimes we don't know how to deal with difficult stuff. And I often see in so many situations, that evil feels like it's rooted in there. And often people are part of the way in which evil has got rooted, and seems to have got, like weeds in the garden, so deeply rooted that you're not sure how to dig it out. But when we trust God and look to Him, He can uproot wickedness and He can plant righteousness.